Yes, ma'am. Hang on, just that you're not getting. Can you unmute yourself?
Yes, I have. Okay. All right. So let's close our eyes. And it sounds like we're all in wonderful spaces of the fall arriving. So let's imagine ourselves in whatever location you want, but with that brisk air of the fall and those beautiful turning leaves, the leaves of the gorgeous oranges and yellows and browns, and the identification with the movement of life. The fall gives us such a sense of movement, of change that happens as part of the organic process that we're in. And see yourself situated in the circle wherever you're located in your mind's eye. And perhaps there's a fire in the center of our circle that's warming our hands and our toes. And we're reminded that as this circle is contained by the women that are here on this circle, it extends so much farther beyond. That as we touch one another today, we're touching so many more individuals who are crossing each of our paths. And we have an opportunity to use the sustenance and the strength and the vitality and the vulnerability that each of us is bringing to this circle, and to carry that forth into our day and into our week. And remembering that there are some of us in this circle that are struggling, that are in need of support, and that they have that support spoken and in unspoken ways from us. As we open our hearts today to extend to one another, just take a moment to really experience the energy that's flowing around this circle. And to feel the gratitude for one another who've taken the time to be in the circle today. And when you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes.
And then gently bring your palms together in front of your heart center. Bow towards your spirit and your body. Long, deep breath. And then take a moment to connect to your spiritual body, to your mental body, the emotional body, and the physical body. And we tune in with 3 arms. Inhale deeply. Inhale. And we exhale. And gently rest your hands onto your knees. And then we want to slowly bring our head back just as much as it's comfortable. That's your inhalation. Exhalation, bring your chin towards your chest. Very gentle. I want to work our throat center for a moment. Because for us to express ourselves, the center really needs to be activated and open and free. We do 3 more here. Really stretch as much as your neck allows you to stretch. And this is our center of expression, the center of our truth. Now inhale, turn your head to the left. So if you look over your left shoulder, exhale, move your head to the right. And again, be careful, be gentle. Some of you just got out of bed. Yeah, so we want to honor our body. Just saying good morning to our thyroid and parathyroid gland. So important glands within our neck. Good. Just one more time. And then come to center, left ear to the left shoulder. Come to center, right ear, right shoulder. Just keep going. Just lean over to the side. Feel the stretch on the side of your neck. Good. Come to center. Bring your right hand and place it over your left ear. And then pull your head gently to the right and walk your left fingers out to the side. And just stay there. Take 3 deep breaths here. And then we come to center and we switch. Left hand over right ear. Pull your head slowly, gently towards the left. Your right arm is stretched out to the side and you walk your fingertips as far as you can. Take 3 breaths here. When we come to center, we are resting our hands onto our knees or the thighs, however you're sitting right now. Moving your shoulders forward, up and back. Big rotations. You might hear some noises, that's all right. Nothing will happen. We're just opening up the space. Last 3. Good. Now bring your shoulders all the way up to your ear loops. And then on the exhalation, let them drop like inhale up, exhale down, all breath through your nostrils. Really warm up your shoulders. Go as fast as you can. We want to create a lot of heat right now. For those that are living in more colder areas, this is a great way to heat up your shoulders. Just go as fast as you can. We do 1 more minute. Speed it up, go fast, create the heat, create the tapa. That will melt away the tension that we might hold in there. While you're cleansing your sinuses at the same time. Inhale, bring the shoulders up, squeeze, 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 hold your breath. And exhale, drop. Just take 3 deep breaths here. You should feel some warmth. If you move them really intensely, you should feel the heat. Good. Now I want us to interlace our fingers, but the fingertips and the fingers pointing towards us. And then you cross your thumbs over each other. All the fingers tips touch and they point towards your body. I want to activate the heart center now. So you bring your arms out parallel in front of you. That's your inhale. Exhale, move this mudra towards your heart center. It's like you can close your eyes if you feel comfortable to do so. And just know that all these fingertips have a high concentration of nerve endings. They're also the recipient of all the heavenly energy. And you put this now into your heart center. It's a rapid movement, rapid breath. We go for 1 more minute. Go as fast as you can. You're giving yourself energy and you're increasing your vitality. You're doing great. Just last 30 seconds. Inhale, extend your arms. Suspend your breath, pull your perineum, sex organ navel in and up. Squeeze the energy from your base, through your spine, through the back of your head, to the top of your head, and hold your attention there. And let's exhale. Rest your hands for a moment onto your knees and close your eyes and just feel. Be present to the fullness of the next breath that you're taking. Moving our arms is really crucial. Yeah, somebody just asked me, why are you doing so much arm work? And I want us to know, because a lot of people don't know, that we have more lymph vessels than blood vessels. We have around 600 lymph nodes in the body. The problem with the lymph is that the lymph has no pump. Yeah, your blood gets pumped through the heart. The lymph system has no pump. Your breath and your movement is the only pump for your lymphatic system, but it's also the police inside of you that keeps the foreigners out that are unwanted. Yeah, so that's why, especially for us, it's crucial that we move the arms to prevent breast cancer and any, respiratory system problems. So move your arms as much as you can. With the next one, we move just our wrist, because the wrist is associated with our intuition, our 6 energy center. So we bring the arms up and the palms facing forward, up, and to the side and back. So it's up, forward, up, back, up, forward, up, back. You're just moving at your wrist. Forward, up, back. Very rare that we are moving our wrists. We are not even rolling up the windows in our cars anymore. Yeah, so if you look at our lifestyles, a lot of our body parts are not being used anymore like they were used by our grandmothers and great-grandmothers. And you might be aware of, oh wow, you know, we just did a minute and I can feel it. Yeah? We do one more minute. See that you can keep up, working for your body, working for your intuition. Especially what Nirmala wants to talk about today. Well, it's crucial that we are being in touch with ourselves. Last 30 seconds. Good, inhale and then shake out on the exhalation your hands, really shake them. Inhale, nose, exhale, open mouth. Last thing, I want to activate the spine and then we can listen fully to Nirmala. Inhale forward, exhale back. If you're sitting on the chair, you hold on to your knees or your thighs and you just move your spine forward and back. So it's an arching and rounding, not a leaning forward, really arching, bringing your elbows back, bring your heart center forward. Just one more minute. Imagine the interplay of all your vertebrae right now. The information that has to go from the brain into the spine, into your entire body, into your arms even, to allow for this movement to happen. Last 15 seconds. And then we inhale, we arch forward. Exhale, coming sitting straight. Resting our hands onto our knees. Being present of our heart beating. And then we can either sit with our eyes closed or open and listen to Nirmala.
Thank you, Siddhi. So today, what shall we talk about today, ladies? Today we're going to talk about our growing edge, self-exploration. The growing edge, I had a mentor early in my spiritual journey, Bishop Swing. Many of you probably know him. Actually, Laura Perry is responsible for me having met Bishop Swing all those years back. She introduced me to his director, I believe was his job. And he introduced me to Bishop Swing. He was the bishop for the Episcopal Church of So his seat was at Grace Cathedral. That's where he was located. And he became a mentor for me. He would meet with me periodically, and we would talk about if I was moving into the clergy or where my bliss was going. And he used to, the first thing he asked me when he first met with me is, what's your growing edge? And I was like, I don't know. What's my growing edge? That's why I'm here with you. You're going to tell me. And he was like, no, you need to think about where it is that you're just a small amount uncomfortable. And I was like, well, why would I want to do that? I have a list of things I'm good at. Why don't I just do those things? And he said, no, if you want to know the expansiveness, the potential, and the capacity that you have to step into the unknown, the uncertain, the uncomfortable. That's the edge that you grow into, and that becomes the new. And then you push that out. So I imagine in my life that I have a bubble around me of where is my comfort zone. And I try to get to the edge of that and bounce up against it and push it out. Like just even with my breath, this breath work that Siddhi helps us with and takes us through, use that breath to push out that bubble. Because our body has a finite motion. It knows where it can go and what it can do, and we push it in many ways, but we still understand there are limitations. But your spirit, your soul is unlimited. And where you connect with the deepest part of yourself is through your soul essence. So if your soul knows infinity and knows the infinite nature, and it wants to be living through that, and we keep containing it in the limitations of our body, because that's what we think of as how we can, what is the bandwidth of our possibility? Well, it's what can our body do? But it's not that at all. Our body does what it can do, but our spirit is free. So how do we use that urge and that desire of our innermost self to live into our freedom while we're under the constraints of a physical body? So one of the ways is that we have to start pushing ourselves emotionally and energetically. So some people do this. You see these people in the X sports where they're doing these really extreme things. They're trying to touch that space where they're beyond what their capacity, they believe their capacity to be. And in that moment where they push that border, they have ecstasy. It's a drug. People take drugs to have the same experience, or drink a lot of caffeine, or do whatever we do. We're trying to get to the edge of our comfort zone and wake up. We want to be awake spiritually and intellectually, and as a physical container, we want to be awake. It's a much more exciting place to sit in than to be drowsy. So what we have to do is to start looking at and feeling into where are we slightly uncomfortable, and how can we push beyond that? Why wouldn't we? Why do we want to stay in our comfort zone? If you were talking to a friend and she was explaining something about wanting to do something new, but she was afraid to, you would tell her to do it. You would say, if it's not dangerous, you would say, try it. What do you have to lose? You would counsel her to do it. Are we doing it ourselves? Because this place where you meet your growing edge is where your joy is. Because when we step into that which we don't know we have the capacity for, and we experience that we do have the tools, it might be difficult, it might be uncomfortable, but we can actually expand beyond what we know to be our truth right now. And when we do that, we touch our joy. We touch the knowingness that our soul or our spirit has, that we're unlimited. It's just in how we use our language to decide what is a limitation and what isn't. Sometimes we have to reframe it. So the qualities that your spirit or your soul wants to experience are not the same qualities that your body wants to experience. We're using the same language. So when we get into discomfort in your body, if you're uncomfortable and you're doing something, it might mean a broken bone. If you're pushing yourself really hard, it may mean something that's physically endangering your body, but your spirit doesn't have that same experience. It can go out and experience something beyond what you're comfortable with and find out that it's good or not good or whatever, and still come back and be totally intact if you're not attached to the language of it. So in our lives, if we want to touch timelessness and limitlessness, where joy exists, where we know that the boundaries that our mind has put in place are not actually the boundaries for our living into who we are. And when we touch that, we feel total expansion, total possibility. So one of the things we have to do is to start looking at our life in terms of where am I setting up conditions for myself they contracted instead of expanded. Where I say, well, that's not, I hear people say, describe themselves, well, I'm not good at that, or I don't do that. Why not? Who decided what good is? What's that measurement? By somebody else's judgment that you're good if you get an A, or you're good if you can jump 5 feet, or you're good if whatever. Whose judgment is that? How about we just continue to burst beyond what's normal for us and try the next thing? And until we're willing to do that, we're trapped in our own cage. We created a cage. We decided this is the cage I live in, and this is where I'm going to have my experience. I don't know about you, but I want the door open on that cage. I might like coming back into that cage for security or comfort or familiarity, but I don't want that door locked. I want to step out into the unknown whenever I feel like it. Because once I try one step beyond my cage, now that's a comfort zone. Now I know it. I know the terrain. So now that's not unusual. Now I can go one step farther. It's just like a toddler when they first start walking and they only walk, take a couple of steps. Then they're not quite sure. They're a little unstable. But you give them a few weeks and they're running until you stop them. Otherwise, they'd keep going. We have to become toddlers again and be so desirous of exploration and expansion that we allow ourselves a little discomfort to be on our growing edge. I want my growing edge at every opportunity to get pushed out. So my teacher, the way he does that for us in his construct is at the ashrams that he changes our jobs all the time. So just when you get comfortable and you think you're pretty good at something, he puts you in another whole department with another whole set of people to interact with, responsibilities. You don't understand what you're supposed to be doing. You have to learn something all over. And then once you get good at that, he moves you someplace else. Because he wants you to be able to go anywhere in that ashram and be comfortable. Because it's useful to him to be able to move you around that way, but because it expands you. So now I don't really care when he says to me, well, you're going to go do this. I don't go, oh no, this is my job description. I want to stay in here. I go, okay, fine. Because I know that it's going to expand me in ways I wouldn't have chosen, but in ways that give me a certain confidence to step into anything that I choose. So what's stopping us is not having the confidence. So when we starting, Britt Marie, I'm just looking at you and I'm thinking, you're going through this transition of the empty nest, which is huge. And yet you've started a new business. So you stepped out. You didn't just say, well, this is challenging for me. I'm going to just stay here. And, you actually took a step out into a place that is unfamiliar. And I'm sure it's bringing up all sorts of things for you. And it doesn't solve the empty nest. It doesn't make the loss of having the laughter and the interaction and the companionship, doesn't make that go away, but it's pushing out your boundaries. We don't need boundaries. We're responsible women. I mean, we'll tell our children to have boundaries because they haven't yet learned what's safe and what's unsafe. But we're pretty good about that. This group here, I'm not worried about your boundaries. I'm worried about you having boundaries. I'm not worried about you being problematic with your boundaries. So how do we keep exploring our life? So we have tools. One of the tools, that we're talking about here is yoga, because yoga is part of a very deep-seated traditional part of the spiritual path. And in yoga, in the Vedic yoga understanding, there are 4 different ways to practice moving into our own nature. So these aren't different kinds of yoga. There are, I don't even know, hundreds or whatever, different types of yoga. This isn't a type of yoga. This is a way to practice yoga. So there are 4 of them. The first one is called Karma Yoga, which is the yoga of action and selfless service. Those of you who are very more like an activist or community-based, you have an outgoing nature, you like to organize things for people to go and pick up the garbage at the beach or whatever, you're probably a Karma Yoga type. What Karma Yoga does for you is it purifies the heart and it burns away any selfish tendencies. And when these actions happen, you start opening yourself up to a greater possibility. Because the focus in Karma Yoga is on the oneness, that we're part of the unification of everything. We're not separate from. And we're connecting with the whole of us and the whole of everything. Our boundaries disappear and we become part of the whole. That's what Karma Yoga does. Mother Teresa is a beautiful example of that. So that might be a type of yoga. When we look at how we're going to have this practice of pushing out our boundaries, we have to look at what are our tools, and then how do I have a discipline around those tools to have a practice. So the second type of yoga is Raja Yoga, and that's the yoga of meditation. And that's for those with very restless minds, when we're trying to harness the mind, connect it and yoke it to the body, so the mind is not wandering out all over. This is what most yoga classes in the US are faced and steeped on the Raja Yoga path. And it's very well suited for those who are method-based. If you like a specific practice, there you do a Hatha Yoga or whatever your yoga practice is, but you get on the mat and you do it, and that's your practice. That's not as fluid as Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is more fluid. You're responding to and you're working with what is present now. Raja is a discipline. The third type of yoga is Jnana Yoga, which is the yoga of will and intellect. So the path in Jnana Yoga is through study. So you would study scriptures or sacred texts, or even, Laura, what you're doing with studying integrative health. You study something, another system that opens you up and broadens you by the nature of what you're learning. And that can be a life quest. We can be doing that our whole lives. Many of us like to learn through disciplines of whether we're reading and studying or actually attending universities or whatever we're doing. That's jnana. And the fourth type of yoga in the description of these different paths is bhakti. And bhakti is the yoga of devotion. And they say that bhakti is the fastest way to oneness and to liberation and to finding your awakening, but it's the most difficult, because bhakti yoga requires that you move out of the way. You have to open yourself up, empty yourself up, so that the divine source can come into you. You'll read about bhakti in the Christian tradition where they say empty yourself out so that the spirit can come into you. You'll read, every tradition talks about emptying, empty out, you get out of the way and the divine comes in. Bhakti is an example of bhakti is our Anandamayi Ma. She was a bhakti saint. So these are just, and you may be a combination of all of these four. You may enjoy all of these, but you also may want to take time to focus in one of them as a portal to expanding. In this expansion, we're talking about getting off of and out of your own way so that you can actually expand into the fullness of who you are, not with any limitations. So I challenge you this week to pay attention to where your growing edge is, where you think, I've always kind of liked this idea of doing this or that, but I don't think I'd be good at it, or it takes too much study or too much effort, or it scares me, or whatever it is. But where is your growing edge? Where can you push out of to expand yourself? Where's that exploration? Pay attention this week to that, because you will not expand as an internal concept into your life. You'll only respond to external stimulus. So you'll have to wait until the big things hit you to expand, if you're not willing to do it internally. So when the external life hits us and knocks us down, we have to expand. We don't have a choice. But we can also do it in a more smooth and a more deliberate way if we look at it and we choose it as an internal expansion and an action into rather than a response to. All right, I'm going to leave you for this week in finding your growing edge.
Good. Okay. While you were speaking, I thought it would be wonderful to integrate what you said, because when we speak about devotion, what it really means is that we are open, to receive, that we are open to let in, to trust, and setting boundaries there where our devotion is questioned. So I want to use the sound Om Soham, I am that. And for the first round of Om Soham, you have your palms touch overhead and you stretch your arms up as high as you can. And you're really receiving the energy from the heavens, the guidance, into your fingertips. And you can either chant out loud Om Soham, or you mentally recite it. Or if Om Soham doesn't resonate with you, you mentally recite or chant out loud, I am. And then you interlace your fingers and you place them onto the top of your head for the next Om Soham. From here, so we are activating our auric field, bringing energy into our crown. From here, we bring the next Om Soham into our third eye, our sixth energy center of intuition, wisdom, and knowledge. Then we open our palms out to the side. They're just a little bit above our shoulders, palms facing upward to stimulate our throat center, the center of expression and truth. For the next Om Soham, we bring our fingertips down and then we come into the lotus in front of our heart so that our heart is ready to receive. And the next Om Soham, you just turn your palms outward, you bring your arms out to the side, palms facing out to the side, and then you move your arms up so that the middle fingertips touch and the palms facing up overhead. Yeah? And then we go back into Om Soham, into prayer pose above our head. Om Soham, fingers interlaced on top of our crown. Om Soham in front of our third eye. Om Soham, opening up our hands around our throat center. Om Soham, for our heart center moving into the lotus. Om Soham, pushing everything out of our way that's in the way for our devotional lifestyle. Bringing our arms up, middle fingertips touch overhead, palms still facing upward. And then we repeat the sequence. So like I said, you can do this chanting, you can do this mentally, however you prefer. I will give you some music with it. Gently stay with your hands in the lotus in front of your heart. And feel your breath moving into your hands. Good, and then we bring our hands back to prayer pose. We tune out with Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Spreading peace from the center of our heart out into the world. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful weekend, and we will see you next week. I will keep the music going for a little bit. If you want to close your eyes and just sit still, feel free to do so.